VCU Da Vinci Center graduation address. Thank you for that kind introduction. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today. I feel I am in great company with the next generation of innovators from our community. I believe you will change the world. I have been thinking about what I might say to you that could be of some value. You all are so smart, and I'm just a film and technology guy. I know that whatever I say, I better not take too long. Your family is in quarantine and they long to hold you close before you go off to change the world. And you probably have some Zoom partying or TikToking to do, is that right? You all have a life. All of that is good. I'm going to need your help to get through this. Yes, one more class participation session and you're all done. My focus this morning is on the people on the margins, the 95% of the world who don't yet know how great they are. If you take anything from my address today, please take this. Always remember those on the margins. You may be asking, why would I implore you to remember those on the margins? The poor, people with disabilities, women, minorities, the undereducated, and people outside of the economic mainstream. Let me demonstrate with your insistence. By show of hands, did anyone turn on a light in your home last night or this morning? Did anyone pass a red, yellow, or green signal light on your way to get food or to check in on a loved one? I do hope you stopped at the red light. How many of you sent a letter in the mail this week? Does anyone here have a home security system? Keep your hands up. Did anyone recently go to the grocery store for fresh produce? Instacart people, that means you too. Did anyone turn on a heater during the winter months? Did anyone use a cell phone in the past 24 hours? Do you think medical breakthroughs like blood plasma or open heart surgery are important to humanity? Okay, that's it. Thank you for your participation. You all get an A+. I think you know where I'm going with this. All of the things I just mentioned were created by people on the margins. Let me illuminate just a few of them. The mailbox, or street letterbox as it was called in 1891, was invented by Philip B. Downing. Before his invention, people with mail had to go to the post office to drop off letters and packages. Once the mailbox was invented, drop-offs could happen at the local street letterbox. Refrigerated trucks were invented by Frederick McKinley Jones in the 1940s. His invention allowed produce in grocery stores to stay fresh. The signal traffic light was invented by Garrett Morgan in 1923 after he saw a terrible carriage accident. He later sold the patent rights to General Electric for $40,000. Marie Van Britten Brown invented the home security system in 1969 in response to high incidents of crime in her Queens neighborhood. Her original design included a video camera. Sound familiar? Can you say Ring doorbell? Alice H. Parker invented the natural heating furnace in 1919. Today's forced air heating systems are modeled after Miss Parker's design. In the 1970s, Shirley Ann Jackson, the first black woman to receive a PhD from MIT, led the team that developed the touch-tone phone, caller ID, and call waiting. Can you hear me now? Dr. Gladys West invented the GPS, also known as the Global Positioning System, and was inducted into the Space and Missile Pioneers Hall of Fame in 2018 by the United States Air Force. Mary Sherman Morgan, aka the Rocket Girl, was a petite woman from North Dakota. She helped to create rocket fuel. Her fuel mixture allowed America to win the space race. We cannot talk about space without a thankful nod to Miss Katherine Johnson, who passed earlier this year at the age of 101. Some of her colleagues at NASA thought she was the maid, when in fact she was a brilliant mathematician called a human computer. She calculated complex orbital trajectories by hand. She was memorialized in the Hollywood film Hidden Figures. Astronaut John Glenn trusted her calculations more than he did the mechanical computers. Let's not forget Amazing Grace, aka Miss Grace Hopper, who invented the first compiler that allowed computers to talk to each other. She also co-invented COBOL, the first commercial programming language widely used in government and business. She was told that computers only did math. That was true, until it wasn't. Grace developed a system that turned common English words into machine code. Thanks to pioneers like Grace, we are now racing down the roads of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and quantum-level computing. Our computers can now order groceries, tell us jokes, and one day they may even do a commencement address. Last but not least, Lewis Howard Latimer added the carbon filament to Thomas Edison's light bulb. Edison originally used paper filaments that burned out quickly. The Latimer improvement gives us the bulbs we use to this day. Latimer also wrote the first book on incandescence and went on to draft the patent drawings and notes for the telephone. He sold his work to a company that would become General Electric. Lewis Latimer also supervised the installation of public electric lights throughout New York, Philadelphia, Montreal, and London. He was on the margins. His parents were former slaves in Virginia who escaped north in search of a better life. Think about the likelihood of a person who was not even supposed to learn to read, inventing the filament for the light bulb and drawing the patent filing for the telephone. Let that sink in. There are thousands of remarkable stories like this that have been kept from us. I pray that God forgives us for focusing more on lost causes than on finding needed cures. It's as if we're looking up for ideas and only choosing to see half the sky. The people on the margins should not be made invisible. What can we learn from these people who changed the world for the better in spite of the obstacles? What their work tells me is that the real genius in the world is in recognizing the genius in others. My hypothesis is that we all have the capacity to be great. God distributes talent generously throughout our species, and all of us get to have the life we are willing to work for. It is in our naked self-interest to invest in everyone, every girl and every boy on the planet, because we have no idea where the cure for ALS is coming from. We have no idea where the cure for cancer is coming from. We have no idea where the cure for Alzheimer's is coming from. What we do know for sure is that the cures that will help your family and mine are randomly distributed somewhere out there in the world. What we do know for sure is that the person with the cure we need right now might just be listening to this message. What we do know for sure is that the antidote for all that ails us is you. I challenge you to decide to be great, because if a person on the margins can achieve at the highest levels, what is our excuse for dabbling in mediocrity? Before I invented anything, before writing my 8th book, before my AR firm won the top 7-figure prize for the 2020 Global 5G Challenge, before I ran a multi-billion-dollar company for Verizon with over 40,000 employees, before I made my first movie with Lionsgate, I was a person on the margins. I almost flunked out of engineering school. It was reading about people like Mr. Latimer that changed my life. I realized that if he could change the world at the time he was alive with very few resources and limited support, I could change my trajectory if I applied myself. The stories of success and innovation helped me to stop seeing the world through a prism of sorrows. Instead, I learned to look at the world through the lens of achievement. This shift in my worldview has made all the difference. Life is a journey. When we learn better, we must do better. We do not get to choose where we start, but we do get to choose where we end up. I am thankful for all of those that sacrificed, every ethnicity and every gender, to show us what it means to be human and how the pursuit of excellence allows us to pay forward the gift of our very existence. Complaining about tough times, complaining about what we don't have, blaming everyone else for what we have failed to do as people is an inadequate contribution to the future of our success. Yes, I chair 7 companies, and I still read every day and at times work into the wee hours of the morning. When the curious ask why I work so much as a retired person and why I send emails at 3 and 4 a.m., I tell them that I work while they sleep so I can live like they dream. Innovators are curious people. We seek understanding as we find our place in the world. I have learned to set aside excuses. I exist to find the opportunities in life that bring me joy. What I also have learned is that the world is full of opportunities, and the best innovators know how to create opportunities as well. You are innovators. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Arthur Ashe said that. It's good advice. Did you know that Steven Spielberg has dyslexia? So does Cher, Tim Tebow, Keira Knightley, Whoopi Goldberg, Adam Leipzig, Daniel Radcliffe, and Anderson Cooper. Albert Einstein, JFK, George Washington, and even Leonardo da Vinci also had dyslexia. Did you know that Justin Timberlake has ADHD? So does Lisa Ling. What's my point? These ailments did not hold any of these talented human beings back from becoming the best version of themselves. In fact, one could argue that they learned to use their challenges to soar. Consider this. People who are dyslexic have an extraordinary ability to solve problems. In fact, according to Professor Julie Logan, professor of entrepreneurship at the Coss Business School in London, 35% of the entrepreneurs she surveyed across the United States identified themselves as dyslexic. Her study concluded that dyslexics were more likely than non-dyslexics to delegate authority, excel in oral communication and problem solving, and were twice as likely to own 2 or more businesses. I think I may be a little bit dyslexic, and I'm okay with that. My wife may say that I am completely dyslexic, and she's okay with that. Thank you, honey. I find it interesting that people that give the most are often the people that have the least. I'm reminded of a picture of Albert Einstein that hangs in my office. It's an image of the great scientist giving a private lecture to a small class of African-American men at Lincoln University, an HBCU. The esteemed scientist rarely gave guest lectures, so I was puzzled why he regularly agreed to give lectures to these young men on the margins. A few months ago, the president of Norfolk State University, where I serve on the board of trustees, shared a Washington Post article with me that made everything more clear. You see, during World War II, German Jews were having difficulty getting visas into the United States. There was a law called the Public Charge Policy that required immigrants to prove they would not become a burden on the nation before they were allowed in. The prevailing U.S. policy was an effective death sentence for German Jews. It turns out that HBCUs, not the more prestigious universities or the U.S. government, gave jobs to Jewish scholars to help them make their way to safety in the United States and away from the Holocaust. Einstein was a German Jew. He knew this history and respected the sacrifice and courage of the HBCUs to help his people on the margins. Many lives were saved because of this courage. Einstein was simply paying forward the kindness. He did not forget those on the margin. Let me close with Leonardo da Vinci. The man for whom your program is named was also a person on the margins. I already told you that he had dyslexia. Did you know that he was also born out of wedlock? That's right, illegitimate. Did you know that his orphan mother was no more than 16 years old when she gave birth to him? He was the oldest of 12 siblings. Did you know that he was born impoverished and he had no formal education? He was also jailed briefly because some did not agree with his choice of life companions. Yes, he loved those on the margins. From these humble beginnings, Da Vinci became a great painter and one of the world's great minds, considered a bona fide polymath or multi-talented genius and Renaissance man. His Mona Lisa is the most recognized portrait in the world. The Last Supper is the most reproduced religious painting of all time. And his Salvator Mundi is the most expensive painting ever sold at public auction. It was purchased in 2017 for almost $500 million. This year, for the first time, the Louvre in Paris opened 24/7 on weekends so more visitors could see the final days of the otherwise sold-out Da Vinci exhibit. The exhibit opened on October 24th to celebrate the 500th anniversary of Da Vinci's death. The exhibit of drawings and paintings shattered the museum's attendance record, with over 1 million visitors stopping by to see the collection of works by the great Renaissance man. So what's the point of all this meandering through history? Let me tell you. If you think lights are important, if you think fresh produce is important, if you think getting your mail or having GPS is important, if you think open heart surgery is important, if you think art is important, if you think your phone, rocket fuel, computers, and space flight are among the important contributions to the history of humanity, know that all of these things were created by people on the margins. Accordingly, I respectfully ask that when you leave this place today and for the rest of your lives, pay the lessons you have learned here forward, choose to be excellent, and remember those on the margins. Congratulations, Da Vinci class of 2020. You have earned this graduation, and no one can take that away. Become the change you seek. Thank you.